All right, you guys. I couldn't really figure out where to put my camera for this one because some of my slides take up both corners, but hopefully my face isn't getting in the way too much. So, chapter 9 and 10 are pretty wordy, but the summary of them is looking at the different coach and parent created climates for a child or an athlete. So, how they influence the environment around the athlete or the kiddo, and what responses do we get out of that child, whether they be negative, maladaptive, or adaptive and positive. Okay, so hopefully I have simplified the like 20 pages between these two chapters. But the first one we'll cover is for chapter 9's coach created motivational climate. And this one has a big theory for it about the achievement goal theory, where it holds that when performing achievement related tasks, individuals kind of fluctuate between task or ego driven goals. And so that task approach will be more of like, I'm going to try to get a personal record in my 400-meter dash. I'm going to try to help my team score 3 goals. As opposed to the ego motivational would be, I want to be the best golfer on the team. I want to have superiority over my teammates. That one might be more of a maladaptive. I operate these tasks based on how I feel, how I view myself, and I hold myself to that standard. So you can see how ego kind of gets more into the personal view, right? And then task is like that actual physical construct. So, of that, the adaptive, so the more positive achievement pattern, for these are engaging in training, even if not mandatory, giving one's best effort in training and competitions, exhibiting persistence even when things are not going well, selecting the right challenges for sports activities, which there's a key there, right? We probably, if we're going to try to create a positive environment for this task approach or this ego approach, we don't want to overdo the competition. We don't want to throw. My kid just started wrestling. I probably shouldn't throw him into nationals, right? He would probably get destroyed and then get discouraged because it was too big of a task. Performing up to one's potential on a consistent basis, and continuing to work on improving different facets of one's game. Of that, we went all black for this one, like, ooh, it's bad, is maladaptive to reaching ego goals, right? So we holds back holds back effort in training or competition, experiences performance impairment due to concerns about whether one is good enough. So they're acting upon based on the challenge of how they feel. If they are losing to someone they deem worse than them, maybe that hurts their performance. More focused on beating a individual than improving as a team. Chooses sport-related challenges that are much too difficult, so the athlete won't feel bad losing, or too easy, so if the success is almost guaranteed. So that's a different facet of it, right? Maybe if they pick it that's too difficult, they have a built-in excuse. And then drops out of sport due to diminished commitment and the belief that one does not possess sufficient competence. So there's absolutely, hopefully you guys can see kind of the easy teeter-totter, especially if you take a child, between adaptive and maladaptive climates. That it doesn't take much if we have a 6-year-old playing soccer to choose too big of a task for them to do. To encourage them to be a certain individual because they're better than them. And if they don't, that means they're bad. They suck. They didn't try hard enough. This type of language affects not just the athlete, but the child. So, kind of some more formatted answers for you guys as far as we have a target structure and the task strategies to enhance that task. So our target behavior, right, we have task, authority, recognition, grouping, evaluation, and time. So we have 6 different ones. We have our mastery climate and our ego climate. For mastery, right, we have self-reference goals. They're multidimensional and they're variated. For authority, we give the participant leadership roles and they feel involved in decision making, right? They can feel included. For recognition, they get private recognition for improvement. So it's not just like as a team, it's the individual. Like, Caleb, I can see you tried really hard here in soccer. That was an amazing pass to Troy. Great job. Grouping, get the ability to get them into small, mixed, cooperative groups, right? So we get some intimacy. We get people talking. They can bond. A group of 4 as opposed to a group of 40. We have evaluation that is self-referenced. It's not based off the overall group. It's based off you. Private consultations. This also builds the relationship with the coach, right? And then we have time. Time is flexible. We have a maximum amount of time to learn. We're, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it's flexible. Flexible in general. And then we get into ego climate, right? So kind of the bad one where, we could easily fall into comparative goals for our tasks. So we're comparing to others. It's unidimensional and undifferentiated. Oh, Caleb could do this pass. Why can't you? Type of thing. We have authority where we take over everything. And I think this one really shows up with parents for sure. Teacher makes all the decisions. Because it's easy to say, my son Clark is 7. Clark can barely put his shoes on in the morning. I should be making these decisions. We have recognition, right? So public recognition of normative ability and comparative performances. So what we deem the standard of the group, that is only when my kid will get recognition. So if he is not performing at the level of everyone else, there's no recognition for him. Then we have grouping. I kind of used it earlier, like big groups. It's whole class activities. There's no individuality. Evaluation is based on the group and not self-referenced. And then time is inflexible for task completion. And that always goes well with kiddos, right? We should always only give them a certain amount of time to do something and be very strict that they have to do this right at this moment. So I don't know if any of you have kids, but it sounds like a good idea to say, hey, son, you have 10 minutes to do this thing. However, the stress levels that a child can handle are pretty low. And if they need to clean their room, like their whole room in 10 minutes, it'll probably stress them out and they're not going to get much done. While the parents not doing anything wrong, they're just thinking that if I give them this time frame, even if they don't get it done, they'll do a bunch because they'll have 10 minutes. But children's brains don't work like that. So just a simple change in wording of, hey son, I challenge you, how much can you clean in 10 minutes? You don't have to clean the whole room. How much can you get done? I'm excited to see. I know you're a super fast cleaner. You fold clothes super fast. Let's see how many you can fold in 10 minutes. And that gets the same result. I'm sorry, it gets a better result, and then the kid actually feels motivated. Like, oh, I'm going to fold, 20 clothes in 10 minutes. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So, of that, the parent-created motivational climate. Parents are important, this is kind of obvious, but in determining the child's motivation in sport. And not just if they're motivated, but how they're motivated, right? So we just kind of talked about task and ego. So previous research has shown children granted with more opportunities by the parents for self-determination, self-control, right? Just talked about it. And input into the design of tasks, and who are consistently reinforced, will abide by the rules and develop greater independence. So they are more likely to follow the rules, have more independence if they get a little bit of self-control, a little bit of say in how things happen, a little bit of encouragement when they follow the rules. And it also translates to academic success as well. So, overall, these 2 slides cover like 3 different pages. A secure parent-child relationship leads to an internally developed set of goals and values, which is huge. It is so important for the child to value academics or success in an area and not you push it on them. So saying, hey, Clark, you should want to be nice to people. That is just the parent constantly telling what he should do, how he should feel. Getting them to develop that themselves. So they're like, yeah, I should be kind, or, I should want to try in my academics is major. An insecure relationship, though, leads to detachment, emotional distress, and usually the use of external control of behavior. And so, while external control behavior doesn't sound the worst in the world, I don't know if you guys have witnessed kiddos who are not exactly the best at being bored or sitting still, being able to sit at dinner. Let's say you guys go out to eat, you'll find kiddos on their tablet, right? That's a good use of distraction. There's some type of control of behavior there because they can't be trusted, to find activities. Children's values are based off of how parents think of them morally and socially. So this is huge. So to create a secure parent-child relationship, how do we do that? Well, one, the book kind of touches on it. Two, I am not qualified to say. I do exercise science stuff. However, me having a kiddo and wanting to, I like psychology stuff, and I'm a nerd, and I want to be a good dad. I will just say some of the things I have picked up and have learned from my readings, as well as what the book is taught on. And the ability to give little goals to children, to be excited when they hit those goals, and to be excited when they fail. So to teach them that failure is not a bad thing, that you only failed because you tried. You can't succeed if you don't try, but you can totally fail whether you try or don't. And teaching them that failure is a learning practice. Failure is not some negative, terrible thing. Giving them, like we talked about earlier, some autonomy. So one thing Clark and I will do is we'll play games in the backyard, and I'll let him develop the game. I get a little bit of say-so, I add a few things, and then we play it. And I congratulate him on succeeding in the game, or I congratulate him on making a good play. And so how I view this child, he is doing well, he is behaving well, they start to believe it. Oh, I am doing well, I am a good kid, I do make good decisions, I'm confident in myself. And so I think an easy way, and I didn't come up with this idea myself, I read this in a parent book, so I say it in here, prepared for a tangent, I'll be quick, is I think a lot of parents don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, why did you do that? You're a good kid, and what you just did then was what bad kids do. You're not a bad kid. Why that sounds great to us, we're telling them, hey, you're a good kid and only bad kids do this thing. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. Kids don't exactly always listen, right? So what studies have found is the children just pick up on bad kid. They just pick up on, oh, I did this, and my parents said only bad kids do this. And oh, I did it again, and my parent had the same response, a bad kid, bad kid, bad kid. And then they start to develop this sense of, well, I keep doing this, and my parents say only bad kids do this, so I guess I am a bad child. Why? I have no autonomy. I have no decision making. I'm getting in trouble. Am I going to be successful in class or sport? Am I going to feel confident? So it's finicky. There's a lot to being a parent, and we have a lot of power in how we influence them. So a way that they have measured how parents respond, how they set constructs for the child to succeed, is this parent-initiated motivational questionnaire. And it kind of consists of questions on, is there a learning and enjoyment climate, kind of like a 1 to 5 ratio. What about worry to conductive, and then success without effort climate. So an example, for a mother, I feel that my mother is most satisfied when I learn something new. You can answer 1 to 5. Makes me worried about failing. look satisfied when I win without effort, makes me worried about failing because it will appear negative in her eyes, pays special attention to me whether I'm improving my skills. So we can see from the last few slides, right, how some of these questions are, how they set you up to understand, does the kiddo feel good about learning something new? Are they negatively motivated about, I don't want to make my parent mad, or I should always be worried about failing? Am I getting special attention to me? Am I improving? Or is it based off a normative group value? Do I do good if my team wins? Or did I do good just because I tried and I put in effort and I didn't give up? Parent, kind of similar, right? Am I satisfied by learning something new? Does he make me worry about failing and it will appear negative in their eyes? They pay special attention to me. Answer 1 to 5. And what's interesting, before I touch on this one, let's go back to how we talk to children. What's interesting about this research in chapter 9, chapter 10 is it lines up really well with some of the different psychology books I've read about children development. And it touches on mothers have a lot bigger role to play in academic success for children, which I think is kind of interesting and could be based off, we do live in a society where I can't give you a percentage and I don't want to make one up, but let's say there might be a little bit more fathers going to work and mothers helping in the early stages. They stay home. I know that was the case for my mom. She was a teacher and she actually couldn't handle leaving me, so she didn't go back to teaching until I was at least 6 or 7. So she was a big part of my learning development. And then dad gets off at 5, right? And then he gets home. So either society or societal norms have kind of created where dad is kind of the play person and mom is kind of the structure and learning and encouraging of academic success. And with all these, right, these are not, we won't call these, don't feel like they're set to constructs, right? There's plenty of relationships that are outside the mold there. But what was interesting was the mothers had a bigger role to play. And the fathers were, for these chapters, considered not available. There's not enough research to see what the father's influence is. What we do know is that the more involved the father is, the more involved the mother is, so just both in general, leads to higher success of the kiddo. And I don't think that takes reading all these chapters to figure out. But when we implement these strategies for children where we are encouraging them to grow and be interested in things and go learn. So before I even read any of these books, something I kind of just fell into on accident was seeing an interest my son had and then going all in. And that interest is their autonomy to make that decision to be interested in it, and then I supported them. So I know nothing about skateboarding, and I really don't care. But my son likes it. And so I did my best to, 1, learn so I could teach him, and I'm pretty terrible. And then 2, finding some friends and things that could also help him out and let him explore that avenue. And that has less to do about academic success, but there is some athletic success there, right? I encouraged him to try. I don't discourage him for falling. I definitely in my head are like, oh my God, my son's going to break his arm. But these strategies that we use create a positive environment and encourage learning for the children. As far as research goes, we kind of already talked about there needs to be more research on the father's role. But some other things they want to look at is as far as how the coach creates the motivational climate. They may examine mechanisms by which variations in the environment could affect the quantity and quality of the athlete's motivation and sport experience. So we kind of talked about in past chapters, right, of the autonomy a coach can give an athlete, what type of motivational person are they, negative, positive, etc. How many successful athletes does that create and how long does their sport experience go for. And then for the parent one, adding more dimensions to that questionnaire could provide better insight into the consequences and successes of the child and how the parent responds. So what response from the parent led to what success or consequence for the child? Was I yelling at the child they just need to do better at soccer and that create a positive response in them? Or the opposite? It sounds like the opposite, right? We would want to respond positively to the kiddo. And what's interesting is what we've experienced in the real world is not exactly there in the research world yet. So there's a lot more that needs to be done to figure out, okay, what type of environments and responses lead to what outcome? What is the best? And how does that depend on the biopsychosocial model of the child? So this chapter had a fair amount to it. I did my best to condense it and try to hopefully explain it well to you guys. The biggest takeaways from this are the 6 different target behaviors. I'm going to have a little assignment for this for you guys to do. And just kind of the difference between task and ego climate, right? I think that one should fairly make sense to you guys now of like, okay, task is I help my team win. We get this many amount of points. I set a new personal record. Ego is more based on maybe emotional is not the right word, but you as an individual of I am better than this person. I must do better. I want to be superior. And then we can kind of see the different climates that lead to success. Where are we getting people individual time to improve? Are we just throwing them in groups? What is better or worse? So we're going to take these mastery and ego climates of like which behavior do we think matches with the question. So I will give you guys a question like when you were children in the sport that you played, you were encouraged or discouraged to perform this way. I had to score 5 goals per game. Is that a task behavior? Is that recognition? Is that grouping? Is that evaluation? Probably task, right? You must score this amount of goals, and then you'll determine like from a 1 to 5, strongly agree, strongly disagree. How much was that encouraged or discouraged? Were you encouraged they had to score a certain amount of goals? Was that discouraged where it didn't matter and they focused more on you having fun? So it'll be a cool little reflective assignment. I hope this chapter makes sense to you guys. As always, feel free to email me if we have any questions, and goodbye.